Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about why did I choose to get certified for medical coding through the American Health Information Management Association over the American Academy of Professional Coders. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys. So, first of all, this is just my opinion, okay? Somebody asked me, how did I decide between getting certified through Ahima, right, or Aapc? And the reason was simple. When I very first got into this studying medical coding, I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know medical coders existed. Okay, so when I went to all of these schools that I had to go through just to see which one I wanted, because I had to go through 3 different schools and test them all out and see which one I liked. And they were all just like trying to pitch the school. Okay, and when people are trying to pitch a field like medical coding, there's a lot that they don't tell you. And while I am a reader and I have been very successful because I love to read, there's a lot of people that kind of get sucked in to this career field not really knowing what it all entails, of all the studying, all the hours of going through these books and everything. They don't realize this. And so a lot of times people are just like, you know, they have all the glittery stuff put in front of them, and then they want all of these things, and they don't realize all the work that goes into it. So when I was going and testing through all these 3 different schools, like checking them out and stuff, and the first 2 were really pushing Aapc credentials, because they were saying that if you take the test and you fail it at the time that I went through, and this was back in 2007 when I was in school for medical coding. I got my certification with my CCA the very first time in 2008. So this was back in the day. Now you have to pay if you want multiple tries, right? The 2 tries. But back then it was like, if you failed it, that was okay. You can take the test again. And so that's what they were really kind of selling to me, you know. They were saying, oh yeah, if you get certified through Aapc, it's much easier. I've gotten that sales pitch too, that it was really easy. It's a really easy test. And it's not. It's not. I know, because I tutor people who sit for Ahima exams or Aapc exams, and I know the struggles that they go through. These tests are not meant to be easy. Although people try to make them as easy as possible, it's not, you know. And if you just happen to guess your way through a test, not really knowing and not being really competent in what you're doing, this is a problem, you know. But anyway, I get to the last school on my little school list, and the lady asked me, what did I know about Ahima or Aapc? I said, I know nothing, you know. So she explained everything to me, and she was talking about both associations, that Ahima has been around the longest. They are the most involved with the laws and helping to shape those laws, because they are the nonprofit organization, right? And there's Aapc, where Aapc is a for-profit organization, so things are going to run a little bit differently. They're going to expect you to be a member every single year that you have your certification. If you don't, they'll revoke your credential. And there's just when you get their flagship credential, the CPC, the Certified Professional Coder, if you've never been a coder before, it comes with an apprentice status. And that apprentice status stays with you for 2 years, okay? But because Aapc is a business, right? I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong or anything. I'm just saying that because they are a business, they say, okay, well, for those of you that want to accelerate the removal of this 2-year apprentice status, because if you have not been coding, they say, okay, you have 2 years to be an apprentice. And it could be longer depending if you don't get a job in coding or not, because the only time that those 2 years apply is when you're applying codes, when you're working with coding. And so that's where you kind of have to watch that too, you know, because some people don't start off in coding positions. But that aside, you know, you have this 2 years you have to be an apprentice, but they say, okay, well, if you want to accelerate this removal, we have an educational product called PractiCode. And PractiCode, it has 600 real-world redacted records. And so this is not multiple choice. You're going to go through all these 600 records. You're going to code this out. And this is going to be equivalent to what you would do in your first year as a medical coder. This is what we consider, Aapc, this is what we consider what you would be doing in the first year. Well, some people mistake this as this is an internship, this is experience. It is not an internship, and it is not experience. Because what it is it's an educational product. AAPC is saying that it is equivalent to 1 year, but that's AAPC. So what they mean is for those 2 years that you have that apprentice status, you can have 1 year taken off if you complete Practicode, but there's a charge for it, or it comes as part of your package, which is going to cost more because it's part of your package, okay? And so some people say that they liked it. Some people say that they didn't like it. There's more complaints I hear sometimes, depending on the individual though, okay? Some people get a lot of benefit out of going through Practicode and others do not, okay? But again, it all goes back to the individual and how they're looking at this whole situation. Because sometimes when people are getting trained, they're getting trained only on multiple choice. And so they learn to kind of like process of elimination and doing all of that so they can kind of guess their way. And it gives them a false sense of confidence when they do that. That's why I always preach on my channel that you're supposed to cover up those multiple choices and that you work through those problems on your own. So that way you can get a good gauge to see, hey, am I in the ballpark? Am I in the range? Am I completely off? Am I right on the money? That's going to help you to develop and shape yourself into a better coder even before you get to that test. But again, another episode for another time. But with that said, so AAPC's got this a little bit more money out of you because you wanted to pay for accelerating the removal of the apprentice status, which I will say that people can get jobs with the apprentice status. And please spare me your comment of, I can't get a job with the apprentice status. No. How do I know that people can get jobs with the apprentice status? Because of the countless comments that I have gotten that people have said, Blue, I followed your advice. I'm an apprentice. I'm a CPCA. And I was able to get a job following your study guidelines, following your resume tips, and following your interview tips. They went through all of my videos and were able to be successful and get their first job with a CPCA. I have written for countless CPCAs who have been able to find jobs. Now, I will never guarantee the success of my resumes, but what I will say is that time and time and time again, when I get a CPCA and I redo their resume and they go out there and they start applying, well, guess what happens? Again, not a guarantee, but they get jobs with the apprentice status. So again, it is a lot of garbage out there where people will say, oh, I can't get a job, and they'll sing that song because, oh, it's just because I'm an apprentice. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're an apprentice. It has everything to do with the fact that you are probably not presenting yourself in a way that is going to get the hiring manager's attention. And if you've gone through my videos, you would know all the things that I have said about how to present yourself and how to talk about your skills and all the skills and everything that you learned in the school. Okay? So, again, with that in mind, all right? So with that apprentice status, it's just an excuse that people use, that they say that they can't find a job just because they're an apprentice. You know, if I would have believed that when I had the CCA, because a lot of people will mistakenly say that the CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, which is the entry-level medical coding certification with Ahima, they'll say, oh, the CCA is an apprentice. First of all, you don't know your vocabulary because it is not an apprentice. It is an associate, a Certified Coding Associate. And a Certified Coding Associate, by definition, has more knowledge than a CPCA. Now, don't get offended. Hear me out. The CCA covers not just inpatient coding, but outpatient coding as well. This individual can code anywhere. They can code for a hospital inpatient setting. They can code for an outpatient clinic setting. They can code for anything, anywhere. The CPCA individual only knows ICD-10-CM, CPT, and HCPCS. The CCA, ICD-10-CM, CPT, and ICD-10-PCS. And the CPCA, that credential says that they can code for outpatient only. So again, people that are ignorant, that run around saying these things foolishly about these credentials really not knowing, you can kind of tell who doesn't know when they say foolish things like that. But I'm here to tell you that even if you have a CCA or even if you have a CPCA, it is entirely possible to get your first job in medical coding. And I know because I went through all of that with a CCA. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I changed hearts and minds. I stubbornly held on to my CCA, you know. There's a few things that I wish Ahima would do to better advertise and educate the people about the CCA, but, you know, it's just my opinion, you know. But anyway, with that said, the lady at the school, the last school that I went to, was describing all these things to me, right? The differences between Ahima and AAPC. And she mentioned that it's entirely up to you, which it is, right? It's entirely up to you whichever way you want to go, okay? Some people just feel comfortable having that extra chance to be able to take the exam again because they have so much test anxiety, which it really isn't a thing. Test anxiety is really not a thing if you are prepared, if you are studying like you're supposed to, because all of this garbage of, oh no, I'm scared, I've always been a bad test taker. Well, then you've never properly studied so that you can be a good test taker. Just gonna say that, right? But anyway, with this said, right, she said just check the job listings for yourself. Whichever way you want to go and whichever credential you decide on, you will find a job. The most important thing is to be competent, okay? And I agree. I totally agree. So I looked in my area, and it's different for certain areas, okay? But I looked in my area, and time again, they were asking for Ahima credentials. Now, Ahima, people will say, oh, it's just for the hospital, just for inpatient, which again, that's not true, because again, if you know the difference and you know what each one of these exams covers, right? The CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, covers that inpatient coding and the outpatient coding. So again, I can go anywhere. And I said, okay, well, that makes sense. I'm going to give myself more opportunity if I go this way versus, yes, some people were asking for the CPC, but they wanted the CPC. And they were like, okay, well, we'll take CPCAs. But again, this were only for outpatient jobs. And so I said to myself, well, I want the most opportunity, and it looks like everybody wants Ahima, so I'm going to go ahead and go with Ahima. And that was how I decided. Now, however you decide is entirely up to you. Some people will say that they've heard good things about AAPC. They have a lot of grassroots movement. This is what I say. It's a big grassroots movement. It's a big grassroots movement because there's bigger chapters in the areas. There's a lot of people that attend these things and that kind of thing. So maybe that's the reason some people chose it, because they say, well, I tried to look for meetings for Ahima and there was no local Ahima member meetings, okay? And again, it really all depends on the area that you live in, depending on how close a local chapter meeting would be for Ahima, okay, versus AAPC. So that's where you have to do your research. But it really, either way, it does not matter. Both of these are reputable companies. They are reputable in the industry. Employers look for these credentials. They look for the CCA. They look for, which is Certified Coding Associate, the CCS, the Certified Coding Specialist, the Mastery Medical Coding Certification. And then they look for the CCSP, which is a Certified Coding Specialist Physician Base. These are all with Ahima, the American Health Information Management Association. Or they look for AAPC, the CPC, the Certified Professional Coder, or they look for the CPCA, Certified Professional Coder Apprentice, okay? So either way you go, you'll be okay as far as being able to find a job, okay? And regardless of apprentice status or not, you will still have the same opportunities as long as you are presenting yourself in a way that is going to be, okay, this is going to get this employer's attention because I know what they're looking for. Somebody that wastes an employer's time as far as when they're applying and they say on their skills list, they just say, oh, customer service, team player, organized. If I see any of these things, again, if you've watched my channel for more than 5 minutes, you know that would immediately get put into the I'm not hiring this person. Not at all. Because you have no idea about what I'm looking for as a health information manager who's looking for coders, right? If this is what I'm doing. And so, again, if you watch my videos, you would know exactly what to say. And everybody has the same set of skills that's coming into this industry when they've completed a program or they've completed their self-study. They have these same set of skills. And skills does not mean experience, because I'll hear people say that too. They'll say, well, Blue, I don't have any experience. I can't put down that I have ICD-10-CM or CPT or HCPCS or ICD-10-PCS. That is the most foolish thing I've ever heard. Why? Because it does not mean that you have experience when you're talking about your skills. Skills are the things that you know, the knowledge you've acquired, and all of these things. So this training that you've gotten, ergo, makes you have this as a skill, okay? The other thing that people miss in their resumes too is their credential next to their name. It's the most simplest thing. But again, if I'm a hiring manager and I have to do an Easter egg hunt for your credential, you better believe I'm not going to be calling you, because you can't tell me right away what it is that you're certified with. At least let me know what is your base knowledge foundation. What is that? Because again, some people will not hear me when I say to put ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, and they'll leave all of that off of there. At least if I can see your credential, at least I know, right? Even though to me, if I don't see any of those there, that's an immediate, like, I'm not messing with this person. Not enough detail. Everything counts, guys. Everything counts, okay? But you need to also look at the amount of CEUs, which I also learned too. So I knew having the CCA, I was going to need 20 continuing education units to report during my 2-year reporting period, okay? Versus the 36 CEUs for one credential with AAPC. 20, 36. 20, 36. Which one would you pick? And yes, while the membership does cover a lot of those CEUs with AAPC, right? If you're doing what I tell y'all not to do, which is get additional credentials because it's unnecessary, but those are not going to account for all of those CEUs that you're going to need. I've had people write to me panicking, saying that their teacher told them that they needed to get additional credentials, and now they have 4 additional credentials, and they have no idea how they're going to maintain all of these credentials because they don't have a job yet. But they're just taking tests and tests and tests because they said that the teacher said it would make them look good in order to have all of these credentials. Again, that is false. Because if I'm looking at a candidate and I see a CPCA, or even if I see a CPC with no experience, if I see a CPCA or CPC, no experience, and I see a conga line of credentials after that person's name, again, I'm not going to pay attention to this person. Why? Because you're just trying to showboat. You're spending all this money on credentials, and for what? Trying to impress me? No. What is going to impress me, or the hiring manager, is your knowledge base. And you can have a huge knowledge base having one credential. Just having one. And I always recommend to new coders that you only have one credential in the first 2 years. Because if you do that, it's going to help you to get your footing and get you to get into the industry, kind of figure things out. And then as you want to later on, start to add credentials that are not overlapping into what you currently have. Okay? So again, with that said, that was how I came to that conclusion. I didn't want to have to give out all these CEUs. I didn't want to have to pay a membership fee every single year, which AAPC requires that. With Ahima, they give you the option. Although if you choose not to have the membership, which I recommend the membership, okay? And there's 2 levels of membership now, okay? There's one membership that's $149, and that's your standard membership. And then there's the Professional Premier, which is $209. And so it's going to give you, the Professional Premier is going to give you a little bit more CEUs, a little bit more perks during conference and that kind of thing. But the $149 membership is going to give you some CEUs as well. Not as much as a Professional Premier, but it will give you access to the most important things, the job board, and all the things that are available to Ahima members only. Okay, there's a bigger discount if you go like for their products or books and things like that, if you go with a $209 membership fee with Ahima. So again, it's up to you. And with AAPC, it is $222 per year. With Ahima, you get your choice of $209 membership or $149 membership. Either way, again, you're getting value out of it. Okay, AAPC, $222 per year. And if you don't pay your membership dues, they will revoke your credential. But they do allow you to have a little bit of an extension. You got to get with them, though. That's what I've read. You got to call them and request it if you need it. Okay. So, and with all the CEUs, the 36 CEUs for one certification, your $222 membership. Okay. And you have to be a member of AAPC before you can schedule your CPC exam. Okay. With Ahima, there's a price for members for their exams versus non-members. So if you do end up getting a membership, maybe you didn't go to an Ahima approved school, which is how you get the student membership, which is really, really cheap, but it's a good price for somebody that's brand new and learning, right? But if you end up going with the $209 membership or the $149 membership, your exam's going to be discounted. So with that said, it's when you think about the math, guys, that's what's going to make a huge difference there. And again, with Ahima, if you choose not to be a member, it's okay. But they will charge you to report your CEUs, right? And it's going to be a fraction of the cost of the membership, okay? So it's really not necessary if you are still meeting the requirements every other way, and you're still doing what you're supposed to be doing as far as maintaining your credential, you'll be fine, And there were some years that I struggled, guys. When I very first started in coding, I was going through a divorce. I had moved twice in 1 year. I had lost my mom. I was going through a lot, and I didn't have money, okay? So it was really difficult for me. There were some years that I didn't have a Ahima membership because I just couldn't afford it, And so that's what I want to pass on to you guys now, is that there's ways of planning. And the more we have a plan as far as maintaining our credentials and maintaining, our membership dues, if you want to be a member of the associations, either association, right? Because like I say, you only need to be a member of one. You only need to have one credential, okay? Just one. And I'll talk about the CCS and the CPC on another show. But if you have just one association that you're with, that's one membership that you have to consider. That's one membership that you have to plan for if you want to be a member of the association. You can absolutely start to save money, right? There's tons of saving hacks out there as far as saving money for your membership so that you don't have to struggle to meet those membership dues, okay? Now, I'm sure that y'all have seen before the membership dues. I did the one for $222, and I did the one for $209. This is mine. And I put up here when is my target date because my membership is due in October. But I want this completed by September. Well, as you can see, I highlight every single one of these little marbles, right? Has a number in it, $1, $5, $10, okay? And as I save, I color it in. Now, some people have the thing in their banks where they have like a savings account, and the savings account can allow you to create different buckets, and that's how you can leave your money in your bank. It doesn't require you to have cash on hand, okay? But you can start to filter that money into those savings buckets, so that way you can hang on to that money. And so that way it can be completely done and ready by the time you get to whatever your goal date is, so that when you need to pay your membership dues, you've already saved the money. And I did the same thing for the AAPC membership. I did it in $2 increments, $5, $10. And as you have $2, $5, $10, you just fill these in, you know, until you can see, so you can see how far you are from your goal, right? And I also did one for the $149 membership. Again, $2, $6, $5, $1. So again, as you can save, you can put this, you know, put this to use, and you can have that money set aside already. And when you think about it in terms of like, okay, these are little goals, these little goals can add up to bigger things. And again, having the money set aside so that you don't have to worry about your membership dues, that's going to help you. That's going to alleviate a little bit of that stress, right? And these are available. You can look in the description box below on how to contact me. $5 each, you know. But you can download them when I send you the thing, and then that way you can start to save yourself, you know, so that way you can start to save those membership dues. Because sometimes it's really hard when it's like, oh yeah, it's October already, and you got to pay your membership dues, and you're like, man, I've got all these other things going on, and I've got to wait, and I've got to do this, and I've got to swing money here and swing money there. There's no need for it if we plan. The more we plan and the better we can set ourselves up, that way, the better off we'll be, right? Because again, this is an expensive field, and it requires you to spend money on your education. The membership dues are a part of that. Some people get really lucky and they get an employer that will pay for their membership dues. When I worked a few years ago at home for a level 1 trauma hospital, they paid for my membership dues. And I was very grateful for that, because that's a nice perk. Yeah, trust me, that is a nice perk to have, where you don't have to be the one worried about it. But these organizations that do that see the benefit of having people who have access to the tools that they need to be a good medical coder. And for me, as somebody that was coding for a level 1 trauma hospital, it was imperative that I have access to all of these tools, because again, there's articles and there's you know, these boards and things like that on the websites that no one else has access to. So again, all of this information is very helpful, and they have tools. The Ahima members website has access to tools. There's toolkits available on there as well. So there's a lot of really good, fun things to get. And then of course you get a discount if you purchase in their bookstore, or you purchase one of their courses. There's membership discounts for those. So again, it's a really good deal, you know, and that's what I say anyway. If you are brand new and starting, what is the difference between the 209 and the 149? If you're brand new and starting, get the 149, okay? If you have a little bit of extra to spend and you want to get a few more of those perks that the $209 membership offers, then by all means, you go right ahead. But again, there's options with Ahima as far as your membership goes, okay? There are options. And again, like I say, if you want to go with Aapc, that's totally fine. Either one is fine. Ahima or Aapc is what employers are looking for. There are other groups. I don't even want to call them an association, okay? But there's another group out there that they always try to say, oh, it's a free credential, and you know, our students can take this and they can get out there, and they put in the name that it's coding, okay? And the thing is, how can you say that when you don't require books for that exam? And that's the thing that gets me. You know, don't say that you're putting out certified coding folks when you don't require books for your exam. You know, at least with Ahima and Aapc, they require you to have those books. Now, Aapc is of course, they are doing their thing with the electronic books, and people think that's the greatest thing in the world. To me, it's a setup for failure if you are just only depending on an electronic book. I'm not saying that it's bad that Aapc is doing that, but what I am saying is, if you are only going to go with electronic code books, oh, it's just for the test. If you're just doing it for the test, that's fine. But if you're doing it and you're just depending on only the electronic, that you never touch these books to study with, that is a problem. That is a problem, because there's going to be a huge difference between you looking up a code through the electronic code book, right? The encoder, versus looking it up in the book. Now, the way that they say that looking it up electronically through the electronic code books with AAPC is going to be, it's not like a smart thing where it's going to like be intuitive, like you write a little bit and then it'll come up with, you know, your words or whatever. It's not like that. So it's very plain. But at the same time, you know, guys, the books are so important to learn from that it just makes me so nervous that people are just so bent on wanting to go electronic all the way. You cannot. Books are important for a reason. And I will always say this. I will always say that books are critical for learning. They're critical for study. They're critical for anything. And especially in this field where we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. This is my advice anyway. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with them doing it as for the test situation, but do not get so dependent on just electronic that you neglect the books. You need to work with books. At least this is my advice anyway. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.